You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur. Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, in which I conduct in-depth and revealing interviews of icons and those who I feel are the next generation icons of the weddings and event industry. This is all to provide you with education and inspiration. So we know we're all going through a very tough time right now. And to get my top 10 tips for dealing with stress taken from my interviews with icons of the business, go to theweddingbiz.com/top tips. Again, theweddingbiz.com/top tips. So last week we were off because of the holiday. Previous to that, on August 31st, was my interview of Zainab Al-Sali, planner designer out of Dubai, who is also considered one of the leading female entrepreneurs in Dubai. So that was a very special conversation. So today's episode is part of a series called A Conversation With, and this time it's with Laurie Arons. Since founding Laurie Arons Special Events in 1994, Laurie has been featured in numerous magazine publications and was listed in Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and Martha Stewart Weddings as one of the top planners worldwide. Her clients include noteworthy trendsetters like Vanessa, Getty, and Christy Turlington, and prominent business moguls like Gary Friedman, Frank Schofield, and Eddie DeBartolo. Laurie runs a wedding planner masterclass as well, so enjoy my conversation with Laurie Arons. Well, hey, Laurie, it is so good to be talking to you again. Welcome back.
Thank you, Andy. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I want to tell everyone who's listening that the interview in which we featured you was so good. I want to urge everybody to listen to it. If you haven't already heard it, it's episode 195. So, Laurie, at the time of this recording, it's early September, and, we've been in this pandemic now for, my God, almost 6 months. How are you doing personally? How has it gone since the beginning for you?
Well, I would say it's definitely a roller coaster of emotion and fear, and also a lot of high points as well. So I feel fortunate to be a full service planner in this industry right now, because our clients are really looking to us as planners to work closely with them and guide them through all of the issues that come with COVID. So we're really earning our money as full service planners, and our clients, luckily, are happy to compensate us in a fair way for the extra work and what we've been doing to move their weddings and to think about COVID and all of the different aspects of what the future looks like with their event. So,
yeah,
unlike photographers or some other vendors who really don't show their work to the client until the wedding day,
that's right.
We're working with them, weekly, sometimes daily, with the clients to keep them motivated and going and making decisions, so that ultimately when their wedding happens next year, they won't feel rushed, and it'll be a graceful, gracious process.
Have you had many that are actually still having their events in spite of the pandemic? Or do you have many on the books that are or have had in the past couple of months? Anything coming up soon?
Well, I had in late March, I pretty much moved every wedding but one to almost the same weekend in the same venue and everything with all the vendors the next year, because I felt confident that we weren't going to be in a position to celebrate in a big way and in a comfortable way until there was a vaccine or a lot more science to make people feel comfortable. So I initially moved all the big weddings, but I had one wedding which consisted of an elopement in Italy in May for just the bride and groom, and then a smaller family-only wedding in June in Napa. So that wedding held on because it was an elopement, and we ended up moving it, of course, from Italy, and then we moved it to the Amangiri in Utah, which is a really special, beautiful, incredible place. It's much easier to get to. Mm. And then we watched COVID spread, and it just didn't feel right to do it there. So we ended up moving it to the Big Sur coastline, to a private home. And we were able to do it. And we all wore masks, and everyone was very, very careful and considerate. And of course, the bride and groom were there by themselves. So they were able to really be present and focus on the most important thing, which are their vows and all of the things that go into committing to another person. And we just made it extra beautiful for just two people. So it was wonderful to work again and to create happiness and, and be around so much love. So that was really special. And then for that same client, we were going to socially distance, fly out all of their family and do something in July in Napa. And we were going to test everyone twice, and the vendors and everything. And then Napa shut down.
Right.
So then the client sort of took a few days to think about it. And then they decided to do another elopement, but include one set of parents. And then we would live stream to the rest of the family, and we would send them beautiful champagne and this care package and all these instructions. It made it really special. And that was wonderful. And at that particular event, we tested everyone with rapid testing the day before or the morning of. All of the musicians, the photographer, the videographer, my team, the wait staff, anyone that was around the guests. And luckily, everyone tested negative.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if anybody failed the test.
That's a whole nother level of stress that, we've thought about what we would do if anyone did. And, obviously the super VIPs, if they do, it's kind of a show was over moment.
Yeah, that would have been. Well, what about in terms of the clients? So I understand it must have taken you months. I mean, certainly weeks to reschedule all these events for a year. But what else are you, other than that, after you've shifted all of them, what is it that you're doing? Like earlier, you had mentioned, a lot of your work is to keep the clients motivated. So what kind of communications are you having beyond moving the dates?
A lot of our clients, we have set calls twice a month where we check in, and, we've had to revise the website and deal with guest correspondence and questions. And we've really tried to jump ahead a little bit on the schedule for next year, because we're concerned that there won't be enough hours in the day if we're able to celebrate the way we're hoping next year. We're going to be so busy that we really want to just get some of the tasks on the to-do list for our clients kind of accomplished. So the clients will feel more relaxed, and we won't be super stressed and crazy next year, because a lot of our weddings are traveling. We're traveling for them, and that adds a whole nother layer of time and issues with planning. So it's important for us to just stay in touch with them, and we're corresponding with guests all the time, and just going through any of their checklist items to just make sure that we're not falling behind on anything.
Yeah, it seems to me, for these clients to have dealt with the stress and the disappointment, of having to move their events, just to have that I like how you're communicating with them at least twice a month. I mean, just simply even to check in. I mean, it seems to me that that is what people need to feel reassured and, like you say, to feel motivated and to keep that connection going, because we're all struggling so much in so many ways with different kinds of stress right now. I love how you're maintaining that with them.
Yes, thank you. I really feel like the connection is important. We want to keep their excitement alive. And, they all follow me on Instagram and they saw the elopements. And we actually just did another wedding, I guess about a week ago. And it was a wedding that was originally 300 people in Napa for a multi-day wedding. And they had been planning it for 2 years, and it was falling obviously right when COVID was, newer and people were at home, and it was just really stressful. And they had a wedding planner that they had been working with for all of those months, but they decided for whatever reason that the relationship wasn't right moving forward. So they brought us on kind of at the last minute for like 2 months to redesign and redirect their wedding. And we started in Napa, and then Napa closed down, and then we ended up minimizing it more and moving it to their backyard. And my team coordinated concierge service for testing for all of the guests and vendors, and COVID free areas. I mean, it's just a ton of extra work and stress that that you never imagined in a million years you would be dealing with. And here we are. So, but it went off beautifully, and the client just really wanted to get married, and they're going to have a big party next year.
I want to be sure you know about another great show on the Wedding Biz Network, The Business of Being Creative, with host Sean Lowe. You've often heard Sean on my Next Level episodes. Well, now he's taking the creative business advice he's shared with accomplished notables such as Preston Bailey, Vincente Wolf, Nate Berkus, Style Me Pretty, and Sylvia Weinstock, and more, and offering it to you on his new show. There are already a few episodes for you to catch up on where he discusses the power of being niched, pricing strategies, metrics of success, and so much more. So in short, you're going to gain a ton of value and action items from Sean's show, and you'll have the opportunity to talk back by recording messages of feedback from right there in the show notes. So if you are a creative who is turning your craft into a business or want to take it further, head to theweddingbiznetwork.com and take a listen to The Business of Being Creative by Sean Lowe. Again, that's theweddingbiznetwork.com. What about your team, Laurie? Like, have you had to let people go? Have you had to furlough people? How have you been dealing with that aspect of your business?
That's a great question. I have 4 full-time employees, and that's a decent amount of overhead.
It is, sure.
Plus my office. And because of the level of service that we provide, and obviously there was so much work and stress when this was all going down, and trying to move weddings and keep all the vendors and the deposits intact was a puzzle. And we were able to really manage all that beautifully for the client. So they were very happy with us. So I just didn't feel like I could let go of any of them, to be honest. I obviously had to look at the finances, and when I negotiated my addendums with my existing clients, they were very fair to us. So where I am taking a hit for sure, because basically I can't take on many more weddings for next year because I'm already busy. And my clients knew that, and that's what I explained to them. And we're also having to service our clients for an additional year. And, there's no guarantee that some of the businesses that we're in contract with will be around. So then we're going to have to be renegotiating contracts. And
that's an interesting point. Wow.
I have 2 weddings that I had already booked for 21 in May in Mexico, and one of them has already moved their wedding because they're worried COVID won't be gone in May of next year. So we're moving those weddings. So we're definitely working hard, and my team is everything to me, and without them, the level of service goes down, and I can't I can't I can't lose any of them. So hopefully next year, where we're going to take a financial hit because of the addendums and what we've agreed to, hopefully there will be a green light and some miracle that happens that will allow, bigger groups and our clients to celebrate in the way that they dreamt. And, we're really all in for them and to make it work. So.
Yeah. I think about post-COVID, there's a lot of talk, differing opinions about what events might look like, just because of all the implications right now that we're dealing with. And so I just wonder, how do you think that there's going to be any significant difference once everything comes back? Or do you think that there's certain aspects of this that are going to continue? I mean, maybe, for example, people will have smaller weddings, generally speaking, or just any ideas about what you think the world's going to look like later?
I'm kind of sensing that people are really, after going through this experience for the last 6 months, I think people's mindset is different, and I'm getting inquiries for new weddings, and those inquiries are more, thoughtful and realistic about what the future holds.
In what way? Just so I understand that, in what ways?
Well, I just think that they realize that there are things out of their control, and that they're not sure if they plan a wedding, and they just want to talk about the options. And I think, they're reassured by seeing on my Instagram the elopements and the small wedding that I posted, that we can still do it safely and do it in a smaller way. I think that there are going to be safety measures that I think make sense to keep going, in terms of like the way we're serving food, and the way that we created these beautiful glass bar shields that create some safety barriers. And it just gives everyone a little bit more security. I'm not confident that there's going to be a vaccine that everyone in the country is going to take,
right,
and that this is going to just all of a sudden go away totally. So I think testing the guests and the vendors, I think, is going to be a way moving forward for who knows how long. But I think it's just a responsible thing to do regardless, so that you're not potentially exposing your loved ones at home if you're at an event like this. Like, you just are being more thoughtful about how you're interacting. And, being from California and in Northern California, and growing up with 2 parents who were physicians, like I'm extra sort of sensitive with all of those factors. But I hear stories about people in different parts of the country that are not really taking this seriously at all. And it really hurts my soul, and it makes me really sad, because I think if everyone took it seriously, we'd be in a different place now. So I just think safety measures moving forward, depending on what the case level is and what's going on, I think is a really smart and thoughtful thing to do for you and your guests and all of their loved ones, and the vendors that are there working. Because if they're serving people, they're wearing masks, but people aren't wearing masks when they're eating. So the servers and everyone are kind of essential, but also at more risk.
Boy, it's interesting. It's such an interesting point you're making because personally, when there's a vaccine, I will take it and I will then take off the mask and I'll shake hands again with people. Like, to me, I'm going to just trust and go back. However, you make such a good point. There are going to be a contingent of people who are not, for whatever reason, going to take that vaccine. And so there's going to be remnants of this hanging on for a while. That is really such an interesting point.
I mean, you see so many people that don't even believe it's a thing, so why would they take a vaccine?
Yeah. And I don't want to be judgmental. I'm just simply accepting the fact that you're right. In the world of events, there are going to be guests, clients who have different thoughts about it, and we're going to have to react accordingly. What about your masterclasses? Like, I remember that you had one planned, I think it was March 22nd. It was toward the end of March, of course, after the pandemic hit. How are you in doing them virtually now? Like, what's happened with that?
Well, we did end up having to postpone because of the timing. I think it was in April maybe, and it was just way too dangerous or risky to have it at that point. So
Sure.
We've moved it to December of this year, and I think it's December 14th, and it's still at Brush Creek Ranch in Wyoming, this incredible property. And we have a buyout of the whole property, which will be nice. And we're still moving forward with the plans of testing every person the week before they get on a plane. And then we're going to test everyone when they arrive. And then there's going to be an optional round of tests, when they get home, because it's going to go right into the holidays. And I just want to be as thoughtful as possible. But our idea is that we're going to show the planners that are a part of it, as part of the curriculum, how to still have celebrations and make the most during a time of a pandemic, and how to do it safely and thoughtfully and beautifully.
Yeah.
So we're moving forward now. And if things blow up again or something happens where we just don't feel comfortable, then we will have to postpone again.
Yeah. And so just the kind of last question, Laurie, in terms of setting aside the event business, just in terms of your life personally, are there any, deep-rooted changes or realizations or epiphanies or anything you're learning about yourself during this experience that you can share?
Well, I've always known that I am a bit of an introvert, and I don't mind being at home or, being more solitary. I'm married to a wonderful man, and we have our 2 dogs. And there is a silver lining to all of this. And I've been able to work on projects around my home and go through family photographs and do all sorts of things like that, which I've been thinking about, and they're on my list for years. So, I always try to look at the silver lining, and I think there definitely is one here for me. And I know I'm in a very fortunate situation, and a lot of people don't have that. But I've enjoyed checking off some of these things that have been on my list, haunting me for several years.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me about all this. I appreciate it. And, I want to check in with you periodically, Laurie, for sure.
I would love that, Andy. It's always so nice to talk to you and hear your voice.
Great. Thanks. Okay. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Laurie Arons. You can find her on her website at lauriearons.com. Her social media handles on Instagram is at Laurie Arons, and at Facebook it's Laurie Arons Special Events. All of this can be found in the show notes at our website of theweddingbiz.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues and give a top review wherever you get your podcast. Those are both great ways for new people to find us. Now, on this Wednesday, in lieu of a regular The Next Level episode, we will have another release of A Conversation With, and this time featuring Cindy Novotny. Cindy is the founder of Master Connections Associates and is an internationally renowned leader in sales, leadership, and customer service. She's been recognized by the Association of Talent Development as one of 9 most powerful and innovative speakers. And today's episode was sponsored by Kushner Entertainment. Check them out at kushnerentertainment.com, and we'll catch you Wednesday on The Wedding Biz.